Let's continue. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. I hope that you enjoyed the break, that it was interesting. We mentioned many interesting topics, but now we are going to talk about data collaboration and get into it. Because, to be honest, we didn't want to spend an afternoon on data collaboration without talking about travel. I wouldn't have agreed to that, because I believe that travel invented data collaboration, and maybe you're shocked. Maybe you don't have clean rooms everywhere in all the travel industry. Yet, all the industries have to learn from what happened in travel, in the aerospace industry, in the retention programs. Who was the first company to invent the first retention program? American Airlines. And data collaboration is at the heart of all of that, even without clean rooms. So welcome to this panel discussion. We will be talking for 30 minutes with two incredible guests. First, let me introduce Najoua. Najoua, good afternoon. Thank you for being with us. Najoua, you are head of the marketing program at SNCF Voyageurs. And we have been working together for many years. We're lucky. We've been working with the SNCF group for many years. And it's a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you. And Jean-Sébastien, we have met more recently. But what you do is fascinating, and you're going to tell us more. You are managing director of Hub One DataTrust. Exactly. Hub One DataTrust is a new company. It received its official status on Monday, so it's a baby. And we are a subsidiary of the Hub One group, which is a subsidiary of the Paris Airport group. And therefore, we are present in airports. We launched a data exchange platform and data processing platform and a marketplace in order to use these exchanges and perhaps to monetize them in the future. So a subsidiary of Paris Airport and SNCF. So now we're not talking about toys and customers. We're talking about passengers. Najoua, could you tell us how you see data collaboration and how does it help in your acquisition efforts? Data collaboration is at the heart of our conquest strategy. We have goals and ambitions. We're open about that, and we can find that in the media, in our brand strategy very often. We want to double our traffic. We want to double train traffic by 2035. Train traffic is only 10% of modal transport in France, and we have a main competitor, the roads, so cars. That's our main competitor. So we want to gain more passengers from cars. We want to find new passengers because 2/3 of our passengers are new every year. So you have to reconquer your passengers every year. And therefore, collaboration and acquisition and CRM are at the heart of our strategy. And I think we have two approaches. When we launch a product, we have a product, for example, WeGo, which we launched 10 years ago. With WeGo, we developed the project only through digital marketing and acquisition. We had the test phase for 4 years, and after 4 years, we saw that the model was reliable, that it worked, that it could be profitable, and therefore we sped up, and we had 100% growth for 3 years. We might not be able to do that again, but we did that through acquisition. Programmatic. web programmatic, mobile web programmatic. 70 to 75% of our media investments were spent on that. And we have SNCF Connect, another part of our group, based also on a similar acquisition model. And something new for us, 90% or a bit less than 90% of modal transport is cars, but it's hard to target 90% of French people so that they will take the train instead. And we know that some people will never take the train, that they are not interested, and that other people do not have access to trains because our network is not everywhere. So we worked with you, Numberly, on a new approach. We often talk about customer segmentation, RFP, profiling, and we started a POC approach with Prosperoute. We used various studies and we realized that we had many data on people who usually travel by car who could be interested in traveling by trains. And we use also the INSEE, the French National Statistics Institute. We identified 12 segments of people who could be interested in taking the train. And we divided these segments depending on how interesting they could be. We left out 5 of them because we felt that the conversion rate would be too low, and we developed a targeting strategy and an activation strategy, and now we have been fine-tuning our first conquest strategy that we are going to be working and launching in September. With all of our partners, high-speed trains, TERs, so regional trains. And we're going to see if we can manage to have passengers use trains instead of cars. Using our data, our third-party data, open data, and of course, as part of CRM, PRM, new generation PRM, to develop growth our passengers. Thank you very much, Najoua. I think there is something in common in your strategies. You widely use geolocation data. I think I should have started with that, actually. So, Jean-Sébastien, geo-tracking, yes. Geo-tracking for what we call the passage part. So, for example, in the Parisian airports, you enter the terminal until the boarding gate, and your mobile is being tracked through the airport Wi-Fi. And what we would like to do is to have real-time tracking of flows. It's not really like personal data because it would be too difficult to get all the personal data and to have the people's consent. However, it would be interesting to have real-time flows to know how many passengers went through security, how many people are in shops, how many people are waiting at the boarding gate. And this type of information is key because in airports you always have to deal with problems, unexpected problems and flows as well. So you constantly need to manage these problems and often delays, usually delays. In terminal, you can sometimes have too many passengers waiting at the same time, and so it's essential if we want to provide better services to them. So we want to use the data, and we want to compare it with other data so that operating teams in the airport can better manage what is happening in real time. What you're saying is very interesting because we can see that we talked about clean rooms and personal data, but we forgot about the consumers, about the passengers. It's not always easy to understand why a passenger is happy. And now you're talking about delays and data collaboration, which is anonymous, but allowing to improve services in real time for passengers, for consumers, in a place that we all go to. And it's true that sometimes people are not very happy in airports. We have a real operating challenge. Because first, we don't know who the passenger belongs to. Do they belong to the airlines? So, for example, Air France believes that the passengers belong to Air France. And as you mentioned earlier, train companies, they usually have a lot of passengers, and they have many passengers that they retain over a long period of time. But in airports, it's different. Usually you buy a destination, but you increasingly buy an experience. So we need the right operating conditions. When we operate an airport, we need to improve passengers' conditions. We also want to draw the passengers' attention to the business offer that we have. And we want to reduce stress for passengers in airports, because usually when people are in an airport, they have many reasons to feel stressed. Najoua, delays in airports. It's different from what happens with SNCF, because the SNCF has no delays, right? But you're also interested in geo-tracking. Yes, indeed, we use a lot of geo-tracking data. And geo-tracking data help us prepare our offer. And we collaborate with data because we buy data. So we have telecom partners that are best friends. We buy data from all of them, Orange, Bouygues. We massively buy their geo-tracking data. It helps us do data visualization and better see the different flows and focus on the individuals behind the flows, and to identify potential markets so that we can prepare our offer, know which cities we should go to, which stops we should have, because trains travel over long distances and also in cities. It's useful for us to know where to have a bus stop, for example. Should it be on this side of the pavement or not? So all of that data is crucial for us to understand transport flows, so that we can also use the data and improve the quality of our transport network in cities, but also in regions. It's also useful to make sure that trains are full. For example, if you travel between Paris and Nantes, where are you going to stop? In which city between Paris and Nantes? Or perhaps you can have a direct train. It's really important. And we also need to work on potential developments, how regions are going to change, the different dynamics that are going to change. And we worked with the French National Statistics Institute to identify social and demographical changes, developments. For example, where there will be more jobs in the future, where will people go to work in 10 years, 20 years from now? And so how should we develop our network? How many trains should we order? Because we have to order them in advance. And geo-tracking is useful to design the offer for marketing purposes. For example, at the moment, there are lines that are full, trains that are full, and therefore buying geo-tracking data and partnerships can help us have a better offer. Thank you very much, Najoua. Jean-Sébastien, you said that you were finally an official company, and we would like to understand what Hub One DataTrust really does. Well, it's all about orchestration. Very quickly, we realized that sharing data, especially in airports, that it was crucial data. And for example, with Air France, There are digitalization tools that are really strong. But when you have a major airline which is stopping in an airport, for example Emirates, the airline really depends on the service providers on site, and usually these providers are very specialized and they don't have the right tools. So we are still communicating through over the phone, for example, or people have to use their eyes to see what is happening if there is a problem at the airport, for example, on the airstrip. And therefore, our project aims to providing tools, orchestration services, and that is why we are a subsidiary of the Paris Airport and also of the Caisse des Dépôts, because the Caisse des Dépôts makes us more credible. It's easier to trust us. Companies will be confident in the fact that we are going to use the data in a safe way, and therefore we won't have to pay fines because the data is going to be used correctly. So you're an orchestrator, you're a trusted partner. And what about train stations? Is it similar? Yes, there was a reform, a major reform about trains in France, and now the SNCF group is divided into different companies. So we now work as separate companies, but we can't share our data without any rules anymore. So the data flows that we have in train stations, they're submitted to contracts that we have to follow. So when we share our data with other SNCF companies, we have to follow the same rules as we would do with other partners. And it's true that we generate a lot of data in train stations, and now the situation is different since this train reform in France. Very well. When we talk about data collaboration, there is a story that we can tell that's very obvious. The collaboration between CRM, with many people in this room, and media. How did this happen? And is it significant at the moment for SNCF Voyageurs? Yes, it is. Our distribution is now 70% digital. Physical channels now represent less than 30%. And therefore, our retailing network is digital, and our marketing and our strategy to find and retain clients is digital. And the media budget are now being reallocated to digital spaces, and also urban transport is increasingly digital for the activation and marketing strategy. We decided to reorganize ourselves based on that. Historically, our data flows were in different silos, brand per brand, product per product. And therefore, we gave up on having a single data system. So now we try to use all these different sources of data. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Activating this through programmatics, CRM, segmentation, RFNP, profiling is at the heart of our strategy. And for the CRM onboarding, it's similar. We can either target existing customers, frequent customers, or we can target former customers who left, and it's essential. I think what you just said is really important. You can use your CRM database, and you can combine it with other databases, with other ecosystems, digital ecosystems, and then you can collaborate. You can use all of these different platforms and you can target different groups of people. And what about Hub One now, Jean-Sébastien? At Hub One, you make the difference between different things, and I think it's really interesting. There is, on the one hand, data that helps with the customer's experience and data that helps indirectly. And it's interesting. Often, in the CRM digital world, we're brainwashed by the fact that we should be as close to individuals as possible. But it's not always the case. It's not what you do. We work a lot on use cases. We worked on about 300 use cases with the operating teams at Paris Airport. And there is EONAIX, which is a transport initiative within GAIX, and SNCF is actually a member of that, and Air France and Paris Airport as well. And these type of initiatives can help manage data in a way that is going to be directly linked to passengers. Passengers are airport customers, but they're also airlines customers mainly, and so the airline has more data on the passengers. But let's imagine a use case with a car, for example, a car rental company. And so, for example, let's say a car is going to be rented to a passenger coming from San Francisco or going to San Francisco. The car rental company has no idea about which passengers were on the plane, even though the data is available. So the airport is aware of this data, but not the car rental company. And therefore, the car rental company is waiting for the passenger. They could decide to remain open for a longer amount of time, waiting for the passenger to show up. But the passenger could also not be on the plane, and therefore it would be a no-show, and in that case, the car rental company could have rented the car to someone else. And this is why data is interesting. We can manage indirect services, so quality of services for passengers, for example, when we take care of passengers' luggage, or whether the plane is on time or not, and we can do that without having private personal data. But what do you mean? Which data do you monetize? We are convinced that operational data are valuable, and they have to be quality data. So we need an exchange platform, but also a processing platform, so that we know that the data that we share is of good quality, and we can make a commitment to the availability of the data. And we believe that data can quickly become valuable from a commercial perspective because we make a commitment about the quality of the data. At the moment, we tend to share the data, but in a non-commercial way. For example, port authorities are going to give data to airport authorities so that they can be more efficient. But I'm convinced that in a few years from now, in a few months from now, I hope we can bring more value to this data. It will be better for your business model. Yes, that's true. Because having a commercial system in place is going to be more interesting financially. Therefore, there is a whole ecosystem that is linked to airports, and transport data is also useful to analyze the economic situation. For example, there are certain moments when air traffic is huge, and I believe that identifying this can be valuable, and this kind of data can be quite expensive. But first, you need to anonymize the data to turn them into statistics. I can confirm that geo-tracking data are bought by hedge funds primarily. Najoua, can you tell us about what you believe is needed to improve the potential of data collaboration within a group such as yours. Well, first, we believe that data collaboration has to start within the company. Before looking for external partners, you need to make sure that everything is clean and well organized internally. For example, between different product lines. We have a large group, we are a large group, and in the year 2000s, we ended up with separate databases that weren't very well organized. Sometimes we focused on buyers, sometimes on sellers. So we need to create a data lake that is unique. For example, having the same RCU as Amazon at SNCF would be great, but we gave up on it. And therefore, having RCUs that would follow the same logic, it would be fantastic. Data links that can be more useful. So we need to work on internal collaboration, for example, by organizing events to align our strategies, our consent strategies, for example. We have high-speed trains, TGV, we have Ouigo, and many different products. So first, we need to make sure that the same consent is needed from passengers for all our different entities. We also need to implement CDP, CMP to manage consent in a better way. And when we have trains such as Parisian regional trains, we need to have the right contracts in place, the right partnerships with the organizing authorities, so that we can cross-fertilize the data when needed, when we want to. So there's a real structuring effort to do internally. And I'm only talking about SNCF Voyageurs. I'm not even talking about train station, the network, etc. It might sound like a lot of work, but you can do it. It's easier to achieve than having a powerful system as Amazon does. We are more pragmatic, and performance can be achieved through being pragmatic and efficient. It's true that cross-brand is becoming a major use case for clean rooms. Thank you so much. Thank you to both of you. Perhaps we have time for a couple of questions. Yes, we have a few minutes. Eric. Thank you. I have two questions. First, in other airports, American, Chinese, Japanese airports, is the same system similar? Second question, because it's about my job. Your data, do you share them with retailers such as Rolex, duty-free shops? And what about the financial aspects? When it comes to the international aspect, we didn't really notice any similar system elsewhere. But that's because we're also part of the DGA regulatory framework, which is going to be enforced soon. So we're part of this system. But of course, all airports have a data sharing system. You have airports, you have airlines, and you have the air traffic navigation management board. And when it comes to shops in Paris airports, we have a joint venture system. So it's part of the joint venture. But we're not going to work on that directly because there's already something in place and we're interested in what doesn't exist yet. And we hope we can strengthen that later on. And we have a question at the back of the room. Yes, coming back to what was said during the first panel discussion about Paris 2024, air traffic, air transport, trains are going to be very important. So is data making everything easier or not? Or is it the opposite? Well, it forces us to move faster when it comes to data. For 2 to 3 years, we have been working on data and modeling to anticipate the flows that we can expect in 2024. And therefore, we can plan ahead. Data is at the center of that. It was important for hubs because we know hubs are going to be very busy. With Île-de-France Mobility, we also had to plan ahead, and same for high-speed trains. So data really is at the center of the Olympics in 2024. For all partners, all organizing entities of transport flows, it's important.
I was saying that we were born on Monday officially, and we'll be using our first use case for the Olympic Committee. I guess I would have preferred not to be under so much pressure for the first time, but hey, what do you want? We need to be ambitious in life, but it's a great accelerator for us because Aéroport de Paris is going to be welcoming 45,000 accredited people, so delegations, officials, VIPs, and so on and so forth, with very large luggage. So if we start losing sabers or the material for fencers or athletes, it's going to be complicated, and we're going to have to manage flows at Aéroport de Paris. So if we want to be able to forecast data with the Olympic committees that already has a transportation database, and if we want to be able to exchange real-time information and tell exactly at which door, in which terminal the plane is going to land, etc., this is very sensitive data. Now, tracking this data is not excessively hard. However, the level of security, cybersecurity, service required and remedy in case of an incident, it's really, really high. Just one last thing in terms of media acquisition. It's a major opportunity that we're preparing for because clearly it's important. Tourism and leisure for SNCF, it's a major lever to be able to recruit occasional customers we're trying to and hope to turn into long-term customers. But it's also about attracting people and reactivation following the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, because it will be people who will be taking the train for the first time during the Olympic Games. So of course we want them to come back and make them loyal. Thank you very much to both of you. There are two main takeaways following our roundtable. First, good data collaboration starts from within, especially when you want to do cross-brand operations. Secondly, the fact that you really embody tourism and transportation, so much so that no matter, regardless of what we do, what matters is customers' journey, customers' experience, and maybe in mass consumption, especially because we don't have enough data, we tend to forget the fact that if there's no tangible benefit for the consumer with data collaboration, it won't really make headway. So thank you very much. We cannot wait to see the first transportation clean room. We're getting there, I'm sure. Thank you.